So welcome to the Global Network webinars. My name is Alexander Loschke and I'm moderating this webinar today together with my colleague Yusi Sang. Today we have with us Corinne Prost and Conrad Thiounn from INSEE, France, who will speak about implementing AI at INSEE, navigating between promise and complexity. This will be the first of 5 webinars in our AI for Official Statistics series. Amr will later say a few more words about our series, but before that I would like to introduce the topic and the speakers of today. So according to the latest findings from the French Office for National Statistics, better known as INSEE, 45% of their staff say they use artificial intelligence in their work. However, of these users of AI, only 19% use the AI tools provided by INSEE. The rest uses a consumer-grade tool available online. The majority of these AI users are convinced of its value. 78% believe that AI has a positive impact on their professional activities. So while these results are very positive for INSEE, they nevertheless raise complex challenges of various kinds. This is a rapidly spreading innovation that is being adopted by staff, partially via consumer-grade goods. However, concerns about security relating to data and publication confidentiality must be considered. It is hence necessary to guide usage and ideally capitalize on individual innovations. And at the same time, larger scale investments are raising questions about funding. To address these cross-cutting challenges, INSEE has established a strategic level AI committee to promote and oversee the various innovations initiated within the organization. And this webinar today will provide an update on the current status of these experiments. So now let me just say a few words about our speakers. So Corinne leads INSEE's Methodology and International Relations Directorate, driving innovation in statistical methods and international collaboration. She previously served as a deputy director of the statistical service at the French Ministry of Labor and as head of the statistical service at the Ministry of Agriculture. In her role, Corinne plays a key part in shaping France's statistical system and fostering collaboration with international organizations. Conrad is a project director in artificial intelligence at INSEE within the IT Directorate. He leads strategic initiatives focused on tool development and risk management, driving innovation and reliability in INSEE's IT infrastructure. Previously, he served as a senior data scientist at the Statistical Service of the French Ministry of Labor, and his expertise spans AI project management, data analysis, and digital transformation in the public sector. And now, just before I hand over to Amr, let me pause here also to give some practical remarks. So please write any comments and questions into the meeting chat at any time. And during the Q&A session, we would encourage you to ask your question yourself. As always, this Global Network webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the Global Network of Data Officers and Statisticians, now on LinkedIn. We will share the link in the chat in a few moments. And if you haven't joined the Global Network yet, please then follow the link and join the group, and also sign up for our newsletter. And that's all from my side right now. So I would like to hand over now to Amr Noor, who will introduce the Global Network AI series in more general terms. Please, over to you.
Just a second here. Yes, good morning. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you are, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. Thank you also, Alex, and I would like also to thank INSEE and before him, Panya, who is now on parental leave for managing and organizing the global network webinars in general. Now, I'm Amri Noor, I'm the Chief Data Innovation and Capacity Branch at UNSD, and we've been kind of holding this global network webinars for years, and it's been established for years. But this is the first time really that we go with what we call this a webinar series. And this is an approach that we would like certainly to test your feedback on as we move on with this series. We can repeat it, but we will kind of reach out to you to see if it's been useful or not, and maybe we can also do a full one on another topic. But for this particular series, we thought that having a series on AI is important. It is important because it does respond to a demand and the interest expressed by members of the global network of data officers and statisticians in our 2025 member survey, who called for more webinars on artificial intelligence and machine learning. This AI webinar series also builds on work already underway. You would recall, many of you, that during our road to the most recent UN Statistical Commission session earlier this year, we organized 2 high-level seminars on AI, one virtual and one in person. Many officials and experts from NSOs, academia, and the private sector presented and participated in both events. However, what we noticed is that these 2 earlier seminars were extremely valuable, but we did find that we had many pieces of the puzzle, but not the picture on the box. And that's why this webinar series now is our attempt to step back and offer a more holistic, coherent view of what AI actually means for official statistics in practice. In other words, the goal is to help our community move from a general conversation about AI to a more structured understanding of what AI implies for the daily work in NSOs and international organizations. We want to situate AI within the broader modernization of national statistical systems, not as a standalone topic, but as something that touches all phases of the production and dissemination of official statistics. This includes the management of data and metadata, privacy-enhancing technology, the governance of official data, the use of AI in the production of statistics, and the tools we use for their dissemination and analysis. So think of this series as a bridge connecting the high-level discussions on AI readiness with the very practical needs of statistical officers and data producers. It is meant as a tour through the main areas where AI is already affecting official statistics, while also being honest about the foundations required for their responsible use: data quality, semantic interoperability, machine readability, institutional capacity, and safeguards. So as such, this series is designed to be useful not only for technical specialists, but also for managers, methodologists, data officers, and capacity development practitioners alike. We are especially mindful that capacity varies across offices around the world. For many NSOs, particularly in the Global South, it is valuable to understand the minimum organizational and institutional prerequisites for adopting AI successfully, along the technical requirements that go with them. So we have tried to address both the organizational and the technical sides through this series. So let me go through a little bit the 5 webinars in this series. As Alex has implied, it runs across 5 sessions during the month of June. And we are really grateful to all the speakers and presenters who committed their time and expertise to make this series happen. Without going into detail on each session, the arc moves from real-world institutional experience through the enabling foundations to the practical applications of AI in our core work. So we begin today with a concrete look at how one national office is implementing AI across an organization. We then turn to privacy-enhancing technologies, which let offices share and link data without exposing it. Next, AI governance and data sovereignty, how we keep strategic control, resilience, and trust as AI reshapes the data value chain. And we close with 2 sessions on AI in practice. First, in the production of official statistics, and then in their dissemination, how to share, analyze, and communicate data in trusted, accessible ways. So let me end by expressing our hope that by drawing on the experience from countries and international organizations, we can identify through this series and the work done before common lessons, surface shared capacity needs, and strengthen international cooperation among NSOs globally on the responsible use of AI in official statistics. So as I was advised by my colleagues, please register also for the other webinars in this series. Registration is separate for each session, as I understand. The links will be shared in the chat. With that, let me hand over now to Corinne and Conrad directly. And thank you again, Corinne and Conrad, for your time and for launching this series. Thank you very much. Up to you, Corinne.
Thank you. So, can you hear me? Yeah, it's fine. Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay. And
let's put the slide on the screen. Okay. Do you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay. So everything's fine. I'm starting. No. Okay. So generative AI is more than just another technological innovation. It is evolving at an extremely fast pace with new breakthroughs almost every week. And it has the potential to impact all activities within organizations. So this puts a lot of pressure on decision makers in both the public and private sectors. Decision makers must decide how much to invest in this technology before they have a clear understanding of the use cases and potential benefits. And also, as you know, there are critical questions about ethics, governance, and environmental impacts. So first, I'll share how INSEE, the French NSO, has been organizing itself to navigate this complexity. Then Conrad will dive into the technical and risk management aspects, as well as how AI is already transforming our work through experiments and feedbacks. Even before generative AI, the 2010s brought major advances in data science, big data processing, machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing. Yet at INSEE, our statisticians lacked the IT tools to leverage these methods effectively. Here's something important. At INSEE, we have strong in-house IT expertise, and we believe it is a strategic asset. 9% of our workforce is dedicated to IT, with 220 people in operations and 230 in IT development. In 2017, INSEE made an important strategic move. We created 2 dedicated innovation teams, one in the IT directorate and one in the methodology directorate. Why? To bridge the gap between cutting-edge technology and statistical production. Within the IT team, we developed Onyxia, an open source platform that enables data scientists to work with modern cloud technologies. This was a game changer for us. The innovation team within the methodology directorate rapidly carried out experiments in 2 main areas: novel data sources and novel statistical methods, like as machine learning for coding and NLP. From the outset, the organization sought to ensure that relevant experiments could be implemented by our business departments. To this end, experiments are selected based on the ability of the relevant business department to assign a dedicated person to co-develop the experiment. While this may result in fewer experiments being carried out, it increases the likelihood that those selected will be implemented. And much of the experimental work has resulted in significant expertise being developed in the use of machine learning for automatic coding for classification. These methods have been applied to various classifications and have proven very efficient for updating them. To give just one example of assessment of the impact of machine learning, we estimated that machine learning have saved 5 full-time equivalents in census coding. Furthermore, without these methods, INSEE would not have been able to adapt its economic activity coding tool because we had a change in business declaration formats, and this change would not have been used by our old coding tool. Some of our experiments have been based on NLP methods to capture information from different types of text. In many cases, however, these experiments have been underwhelming. We are now experimenting these use cases using LLMs, and the LLMs prove to be a more efficient way of searching for information within text. The emergence of Gen AI has been taken into account by our 2 innovation teams in their experiments with statistical production. Let me give you 2 examples of new use cases. We are testing LLMs to process open-ended survey responses. And this is a vast amount of untapped data, which were not used until now. And we are testing an agentic AI for codification. It's a multi-agent AI system which handles those cases that supervised learning can't resolve. This system reasons over a graph-based knowledge base. So AI understands the hierarchical structure of the classification system, which machine learning does not. The challenge now with Gen AI is to expand experimentation to cover all of INSEE's activities, not just statistical production. AI's impact is cross-cutting. It affects human resources, communication, IT, and more. And to address these cross-cutting challenges, INSEE has established a strategic AI committee at the highest level. What is the role of this committee? The committee has just approved an AI usage policy. It is now signed by all agents. The committee launches calls for pilot projects. It oversees external communication, and it validates technology choices for infrastructure and models. This should ensure that innovation is coordinated, ethical, and aligned with our public mission. So far, I've shared with you how INSEE is organized itself around AI innovation. Now, Conrad will take over to explain the infrastructure and model choices behind the experiment, how we manage risks, and what are the experiments and feedback.
Thank you, Corinne. I will take over this chapter. I will talk about what AI implies for INSEE. So I would like to discuss in 3 key elements, which to begin with AI infrastructure, to moving on to AI models and tools, and finally AI risk management assessment. Starting with 2 facts. First fact is that Gen AI model, like large language models, demands high computation, heavy computation, that requires significant hardware such as GPUs, high memory servers, and IT infrastructure to run them. So this is not small investment. The second fact is that GPU are scarce and expensive resources. So how we use them and allocate them is very crucial to ensure high quality service and efficiency to user. That being said, how we make generative AI accessible in practice to everyone in the institute, there is two solutions regarding GPUs. First solution is to buy GPUs. Second solution is to rent or buy GPUs time from others, from external parties. In the first solution, you have to deal with GPUs integration into the IT system, into the data science platform, and you have to allow users to use the models by chat interfaces or APIs. In the second solution, when you buy the GPU's time, you have to deal with their direct cost, quotas, budget allocation, and mainly security concern about sensitive data. So therefore, what about us? As a national statistical organization, we collect and handle sensitive data. So we cannot share sensitive data with external parties. Thus, furthermore, we operate under a strict legal and governmental framework, since the government provides an AI assistant for general purposes, such as dealing with writing, translating, basic synthesis, or analysis tasks that the AI assistant resolve. With that being said, because of the scarcity of the GPUs and as a strong signal, the government wants to create a pool of GPUs and a pool of generative AI solution to be shared across all administration, rather than each administration going its own way. So that, with that context in mind, we are building an hybrid approach AI infrastructures. For general tasks, we reuse the existing government provided AI assistants. And for specialized tasks, like statistical one, we are also building part of AI infrastructure for specific use cases in order to process highly sensitive data to ensure compliance and security. For that, we have on-premise GPUs that we have and be used to maintain control over data and hub infrastructure. Given the constraint, three constraints, one of data sovereignty, two of regulatory requirements, and three, the push for mutualization, our models choices follow directly from this principle. So to speak, our preferences for models goes to European models, such as Mistral, which is being the leading example here. Why are we choosing European solutions? It's because it means we operate within a legal framework that is compatible with our obligations, such as data residency or no extra foreign legislation. Beyond geography, we tend to prefer also open weight models to ensure transparency and flexibility. We can audit them, we can rerun it, we can fine-tune it eventually. So we are also using open weight models as a tool. There is the same philosophy for tools. We reuse open source tools to be able to scale and customize the tools, to audit them and to run it and to tweak them precisely. So why are we so cautious about all of this? It is because of shadow AI and shadow IT. There are two main risks associated with shadow AI. The first one is data exfiltration. With the data sensitiveness, we don't want our data to go outside our organization. And the second one is AI can be malicious. They can compromise IT system, internal data, or statistical processes. So therefore, we have user guidelines in two rules. First rule is users must not use personal or unauthorized generative AI tools. And the second rule is only the provided generation AI solution should be used. Why I'm facing so much emphasis on this risk? Let's discuss two types of risk. One very general risk that applies to new IT tools and we introduce, any tools we introduce, and another risk specific to Gen AI, so that is bound to Gen AI. Starting with the general picture, with the first risk, every time we introduce a new component to our infrastructure, to our IT infrastructure, i.e. AI or not, we expand our attack surface. Each new additional surface should be assessed, hardened, and monitored. This is not new. It's just a gentle reminder that AI does not escape the logic of standard security hygiene. And specifically, in the AI agentic field, there is a specific risk with two root causes. First one is non-determinism, because they are not easily predictable. That can translate into chaotic, unpredictable behaviors with bugs or malicious intent. So that may be difficult to audit, to detect, and to contain it. Second root cause is the speed and the scale that can lead to privilege escalation. AI agents can process real-time vulnerabilities such as copy fail, dirty frag, etc. They can run multiple operations per second. They can intersect many data and information much more faster than humans to gain access routes, higher privilege, and cause trouble. The risks we just covered here are very real. They are the reason to be precise about how we deploy generative AI solution carefully. So the key strategy here in the INSEE is to address for all use cases, depending on the sensitiveness of the data, the adequate solution. There is not one solution for all the use cases, all the data. There's multiple solutions, and since all data is not equal, nor all use cases carry the same risk, we have a deployment strategy in two steps. First step is on-premise generative AI for highly sensitive data. We are building this currently with the ministry and the government. And for all other use cases which are less sensitive, we also use secured generative AI models with relaxed constraint. The same principle applies also to tool. Tool must meet a clear safety bar in three criteria, which is first, the tool must be reviewed by many expert firms. The second one is the tool must be tested thoroughly. And the third is that the tool must be understood by users. As a general conclusion of these chapters, we don't want a situation where well-intentioned AI become a vector for compromising IT solution, IT system, and leaking private data. There is a trade-off between innovation and security. If we think security by design, it should be sufficient enough to enable innovation. So moving on to the next chapter, I will talk more about innovation and experiment and feedback. So now that we covered the infrastructure, the constraint, the security framework, all of that, let's look into what we actually want to do with generative AI. The slide maps out our use case landscape. The most immediate application is AI for general purposes, like writing assistant, document summarization, production of communication and training and materials. I will talk about in the next slide. And that use case is very high frequency and high value task that every team in the INSEE faces. This is where the team will, where many users will face generative AI as a first step, as the first real interaction with the generative AI in their day-to-day work. Going on to the second use case, which is AI for software development. We are extensively experimenting AI for software development in the IT directorate. For our development teams, the opportunity of AI lies into augmenting the software development lifecycle, like code generation, code review, documentation, test writing, debugging support. Generative AI can accelerate those steps and free the developers to focus more on higher level problem that requires human expertise. We have also a third experiment with AI for project management, which allow us to plan more efficiently, track progress, and optimizing process on project. And lastly, two use cases the most important for our statistical organization is AI readiness. AI readiness, we are currently experimenting MCP servers. MCP servers, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It is a way to expose, disseminate data directly to the Gen AI models in a structured and controlled manner. So as an analogy, MCP servers are like USB connection for data to generative AI models. And we are currently prototyping in this field with disseminated data available in the website of INSEE, the INSEE's website. Finally, the last use case that Corinne already told, it is AI for statistical production, like agentic AI for codification, processing open-ended survey response. So I would like to explain the first use case. I almost tell all about it in the previous chapter, but I will make a non-pause. I will focus on the RAG, which is the use case that gives the first tangible values to the institute. Since the last couple of years, we are experimenting multiple RAG. And particularly nowadays, we are experimenting RAG on the internal document of the French housing census to enable our internal user to request the documentation. And soon there is a feature in the government AI assistant who will enable to do any type of RAG with our private document for all the administration. This is very promising as it is one of the most awaited functionalities from users. So we place many hopes into that use case. I will talk about AI for software development in IT Directorate. There is two modes how we use AI into lifecycle development of software engineering. The first mode is AI chatbot integrated into the development tools. We use Mistral for that. So the developer can ask what the code are doing and copy paste the code and just chat with the model. And we have a more advanced mode that is agentic AI agents. with more open source code base with Mistral Vibe and Cloud Code. And in that mode, the agent have the leverage to read the code, to propose an edit, etc., etc. That give more insight. The model give more insight in that mode. In terms of experimentation, we begin that experimentation in the end of 2025 by phases. In December 2025 and to January 2026, we are learning AI through AI chatbot, the first mode. And since February 2026, we are using AI agentic agents to a more advanced functionality like skills, etc. That experiment is very controlled because there are only 4 development teams that is in that cycle, and 1 operating team with some statistician. So let me talk about the early result because the experiment is not finished. So the early results that the developer give me feedbacks is qualitative, like AI very convenient. You can plug it directly into the dev tool, and it offers a lot of service. It's very helpful to code test, such as test-driven development and to refactor code. Whereas there are some downside of it. Sometimes the AI led to a false password and can waste time to the developer. It happens sometimes, and rarely AI took too much time to process. Over 1 hour to reflect, and it's very too much for a simple task. It's very rare. And we have quantitative feedback also. One development team has measured if AI helps or not in terms of 3 criteria: satisfaction, time save, quality, on 3 development sprints, which correspond of 3 months of development, and developers were told to annotate if they have used AI or not. If they have used AI, what was the quality of the code? Well, if there is any time save, or what was the development satisfaction. So in that experiment, in that measurement, 1/3 was assisted by AI, 1/3 of the functionalities, user stories, and 8 of 10 user stories developed with AI were better quality than human. 3 of 4 were quicker. There is a time save, whereas when the human code only, and 9 of 10 were positive in terms of satisfaction, with more than half very positive. So the AI here is very appreciated. I will finish my last slides for AI for project management. We use Tulip, which is an open source solution in French, open source solution to manage project as a project management tool. And we have developed in intern AI solution on the top of Tulip, which allow to have a project health monitoring. With AI, we can generate a health indicators for projects. When we feed a certain type of information, we can build health indicators and then process the dashboard of these key indicators. With AI, we can also enable the project owner to write more easily user story function. We can also automate the release note after each sprint. And lastly, we can duplicate we can detect duplicate. Sometimes the user story is written in double and triple, and we can with AI detect those who are similar or duplicate.
So just to give some key takeaways for the end of this presentation. At INSEE, we already had 2 innovation teams dedicated to statistical production. But with generative AI, we have cross-cutting challenges. So we we have now an AI committee. And one of the goals of this committee is to make the good choices about technology under the constraints of several issues: sovereignty, risk management, and cost. We already have various experiments, and a major challenge, it's very important, it's to be able to evaluate the results of these experiments on several dimensions. And this is very important to think about the method of evaluation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinne, and thank you, Conrad, for your presentation. I will now enable the microphones and the video for our participants so they can also ask the questions to you live. So this is, we are opening now up the floor for your questions. And maybe I start with one colleague, In-Kyung Choi. I saw that you had put your question into the meeting chat. Would you like to ask the question live?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corinne and Conrad, for this very interesting presentation. So yeah, just to repeat what I said, wrote in the chat. So my first question is about how you ensure these 2 innovation teams under the different directorate talk to each other, because that's always challenging to make sure that innovation team doesn't go into silos and echo chamber. And then my second question is about this approach you mentioned, the supervised learning plus the AI agent reasoning over knowledge graph. Sounds like a really interesting approach. So have you seen some improvements in terms of accuracy, etc.? And it seems like you are doing it for the statistical classification coding. And are you also planning to expand it to some other use cases? And then if so, what kind of knowledge graph do you have at the INSEE?
Okay, thank you. I can start on the first question. How we ensure it with informally on an informally base, but they have to work together because the IT innovation team gives the tools for the statistical team. So it's very important that they work together, and it works. That's all that I can say, but it works, and they work a lot together. But we at first we wanted just to have a statistical innovation team, and we thought it would not be a good idea because it's important that the IT directorate moves and gives the tools to apprehend the statistical needs. So 10 years later, I can think it was a good thing to have two innovation teams so that statisticians can work with IT teams, and we're happy with that this decision. And about AI agent, it's interesting. It's just a first experiment, and it's not very good in terms of time.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you can.
It's a very consuming. There's a lot of time consuming. For that method, it's not very
efficient. Yeah. So we're not sure we are having it in implementing it in a statistical process for the moment. So we have to work more on this, but maybe it won't work at the end. We don't know. Actually, the machine learning is very efficient, so it's not sure we gain much with an agent working after the machine learning method. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to remind also you all participants, you can write your questions into the meeting chat or raise your hand. I would now like to hand over to Amr for comments and questions, and then I'll take the next question from the meeting chat. Thank you.
No, thank you, Alex. Well, I saw some pertinent questions from Omar in the chat as well. Would you like to go through the chat? I didn't want to monopolize really, but I have a couple of questions after that. Maybe we can take Omar from the chat.
Okay.
And then you can come back to me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. I'll do that. Omar, if you want to come in live, that's nice. If not, I can read out the question. So Omar was asking or was saying, thank you so much for all the wonderful insights. I'm wondering if you have developed an AI capacity building plan to upscale the skills of the staff at INSEE working on these AI projects. And has INSEE also established partnerships with other institutions in France or elsewhere to leverage existing skills? And going forward, are you planning at some point to conduct experiments on AI-assisted interviews for survey data collection? Yeah, so I hand over to you, Corinne and Conrad. Thank you.
I will answer for the first part of the upscaling of the skills of the staff at INSEE. We are currently thinking about it at the AI committee. This is a larger matter subject, so we have to think thoroughly about it. We already have one formation to explain the usage of AI through the chart. And we have also established partnership with the Ministry of Finance. They have already think about it. So we will leverage all existing information that exists in that regard.
Yeah, and about experiments on AI-assisted interview for survey data collection, not for the moment. We are developing our own collecting tool, and it's not mature enough to have an AI-assisted interview. So maybe later we don't. Actually, we have a lot of collection in multimode, so not always with interviewers. And so the use cases are different, whereas the collection is by web or phone or face-to-face. Yeah.
Thanks. Then I take one more question from the chat from Kali. Kali, if you want to come in, please do so. Otherwise, I see, cannot use the microphone. So the question was there, whether there are specific indicators INSEE uses to measure whether staff are using AI in a way that is compliant, secure, and aligned with the organizational policies rather than simply measuring uptake.
No, the results you mentioned and we had in the summary of the presentation comes from a survey. So we have regular surveys and asking questions to the staff. And that's how we measured the 45% using AI, but only 19 using the tool we are giving to them. So actually, there are a lot of AI, of shadow AI. There is a lot of shadow AI. This survey was done in January, and since then we are better. We gave policy, people signed the policy, and so on. So we think it's going to improve, and we should have more compliance later on. We hope so. We'll see with our next survey next year.
I can complete on that part also. We can leverage log about how people connect to external tools, but we actually don't leverage it. And secondly, when we build the IT infrastructure of AI, we will log the usage. This is one of the metrics that ensure that everyone is compliant and secure about AI. That's the two parts.
Thanks. Amar, now, if you want to come in, I think we have covered the questions in the chat so far. So please, Amar, and then later on, Habib. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Alex, and thank you for Corinne and Conrad for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I have a couple of queries and comments, but before I make them, actually, I really wanted, which was kind of remiss on me not to start with, is to thank INSEE for Onyxia. It was mentioned, obviously, as one of the major innovation, platforms by INSEE, and I have to say that INSEE was generous enough to offer Onyxia to the UNSD, and to the UN. And since then, it has been a major breakthrough, really, for UN's work, for the other NSOs around the world, And it did allow us to move the UN Global Platform, which is managed by my branch, So I really kind of close to my heart and close to also my chief of section heart, of course, and to all of the UNSD, from just a static platform to a really a service and a capacity development service to many NSOs around the world and to many statisticians around the world. So for the record, thank you, INSEE, and thank you, Corinne and Conrad, for this innovation, and really appreciate it. All right. Now, let me move to my other couple of points, if I may. One of them was covered by Inkyong, which is indeed about this kind of sometimes perceived challenge between the interface, or to use the word interoperability, between the technology people and the statisticians, in general. And I think from the presentation, we saw that INSEE for decades has kind of this, and the investments in the IT is enormous, And I think this is a lesson that I hope the others can learn and invest on. But this interface, obviously, is critical to open up as moving forward. The AI put kind of everything on the spot, but it should have been there, and I think INSEE has been in the avant-garde in this. So again, if there is any other extra words on this broader aspect, that would be appreciated, but I think it has been covered, so to a certain extent. Now, my more point is about the resources required for computation, and the GPU, obviously, and so on. And in the case of France, well, luckily, you probably had the capacity and the policy to leverage, all the resources of the GPU, mutualizing GPU among the several administrations. Now, in other countries, that may be much more challenging, even with other administrations or at a single NSO. And I'm just wondering what advice would you have for such cases, where indeed, as you say, having a recourse to a third party may be compromising to a certain extent, or any other solutions that you may have in mind or advice, that would be really very useful for this setting, I would say. And my final point would be how is INSEE situated in the broader data governance environment and ecosystem in France in general? All right, because of course, again, UNSD and my branch in particular is dealing again with the data governance in general, and we are trying to see how this is situated and whether that helps somehow INSEE in the use of AI and kind of utilizing AI after that through other national statistical systems in France. So I'll stop here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. GPU?
Yeah, I will answer about advice about mutualizing GPUs. It's a very difficult task, and we are currently building, not INSEE, but the other administration, the Ministry of Finance, who will share their GPUs. We are currently also sharing our GPUs in Onyxia, in the French educational system. But my advice for mutualizing GPUs is to have one in the organization, the IT skills about that. Like the very precise IT skills that very demanding. And there's a second point, it's to build the IT infrastructure with open source and modularity to allow others to access to GPUs. But the third point is also to tackle and raise all the security concerns to add the IT security teams in the process, in the order process, and validate the overall security of it. There's three main points, key element points for the advice. Regarding the data question.
So about the statistical system, how INSEE is working with statistical services in the ministries. That was the question. So INSEE has the role of coordination. And so there is a lot of coordination between INSEE and of INSEE of the statistical services. Actually, the open platform based on Onyxia is available for all data scientists in the administration, and we have a lot of data scientists working on Onyxia, but it's for open data. We can't have confidential data on this. And we are actually working on sharing a platform, more secured platform with the statistical services in a governmental cloud. We'll see, it's just the start. We will try to mutualize something secured. This is the difficult part, is to have something secure in a governmental cloud. Yeah, so we try to do it, but otherwise we share skills and ideas and experiments, results of the experiments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're at time, so it's 9:30. So I think we need to wrap up right now. I still see one hand by Omar. Omar, if you want to come in, please do so, but keep it short, and then we wrap up.
Thank you so much for the excellent presentation. I just had one question. Maybe it was covered in the presentation, but I was wondering how INSEE, if INSEE has used AI, or to what extent INSEE has used AI for quality assurance of existing data or historical data. And also, I just wanted to say that I'm a big fan of INSEE, really, and I spent so much time on your website looking and reading all your work, and thank you so much for this excellent presentation.
Thank you. No, for the moment, we haven't used AI for quality assessment. So it's an open area. We haven't any new use case in this area for the moment.
Okay. Thanks. So thank you for this question, and thank you to Corinne and Conrad for presenting today. So this has been the first webinar in a series of 5. I have put into the meeting chat again the registration links to the upcoming webinars, all now taking place in June. Not on Thursdays, but on Tuesdays. So from now on, we will switch to the Tuesday. So every Tuesday, we will have an AI webinar. The registration links are in the chat and also in the invitation emails to the individual webinars that you have received. So thank you again, Conrad and Corinne. And if I may ask everyone, if you can, for a few moments, can you switch on the camera and maybe also your microphone and give a big round of applause to the 2 speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. And see you next week on Tuesday for the next Global Network webinar in this AI series. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Merci encore une fois. À la prochaine, j'espère.
À la prochaine.
Merci. À la prochaine. Au revoir.
Au revoir.